All right, we're going to take a look at trigonometry. Now that we know how to label our triangles and set up our ratios, it's going to be quite easy to actually solve problems. Trigonometry, you need to know 3 old angels sitting on high, chatting about heaven. 3 old angels sitting on high, chatting about heaven. Okay, first thing I'm going to teach you first is how to use a calculator. Okay, so if you look at number 5 real quick, right? Put your calculator in front of you. And a couple of things I want you to realize about your calculator. You will see writing on top of each button. To get that writing, you will either press second or shift. Some calculators have shift, okay, but this one has second. All right, so I'm going to switch it on because on the bottom left-hand corner it has the on button. Switch it on. If it already has something on your screen, you can clear it by pressing clear. See how it deletes everything. All right, if you wanted to switch your calculator off, you find the off button, and you see that off is right above the on. So again, you have to press shift and then that to get this one over here. So shift and then on will switch your calculator off. All right, so switch it back on. All right, really super simple. To find what cosine of 11 is, you just simply type it in. So find cosine. Here's cosine of 11. Okay, and close your parentheses. Just get in the habit of closing the parentheses because as we get deeper into questions, you can make mistakes if you don't close it. So cosine of 11, make sure it reads exactly what you want it to read. Just like the clicker, you need to, before you press enter or equals, you need to make sure it's exactly what it's supposed to be. Press enter and you get 0.981627. All right, let's just do it to the nearest hundredth. So it's going to be 0.98. All right, same thing for number 2, tan of 75. Just go ahead and put that in the calculator. Find tan and 75. Close the parentheses. Before I press enter, I check. Does it say tan of 75? Yes, it does. Press enter. All right, let's do to the nearest hundredth again. It's going to be 3.73. All right, now when we get to questions like these get a little bit interesting. Okay, but the concept is really quite simple. All right, if I had, I'm just going to slide this up for a second. If I had 2x equals 10, and I wanted to get x by itself, what would I do? Good, I would divide by 2. But do you know why you would divide by 2? All right, it's because the operation between 2 and x, and by operation I mean multiplication, division, subtraction, addition, is multiplication. So really what you're doing is you're taking the opposite of the operation and doing it to both sides. So to get rid of 2 times, I divide by. So that will cancel this. Okay? That is the exact same concept when it comes to trigonometry. So on this one, I have tan y is equal to 0.6494. I want to find out what y is. That means I need to get rid of tan. To get rid of tan, I have to take the opposite. The opposite of tan, and the really cool thing is, you never really have to remember this because it's going to be right above it. The opposite of tan is the inverse of tan. The opposite of cosine is the inverse of cosine. The opposite of sine is the inverse of sine. So you actually never have to remember it. If I'm trying to get rid of tan, remember, I go to the opposite of tan. To get the opposite, it's this in blue. Again, to get these buttons in blue, you have to press shift or second and then the button. So do you see how it says 10 to the minus 1? The inverse of 10, right on the top, that's what I want, the inverse of 10. All right, so the inverse of 10, if I do it to one side, I do it to the other. This is going to cancel with this, so it's just going to leave you y equals this. So it's going to leave you y equals the inverse of 0.6494. And again, close the parentheses. It doesn't matter on this one, but with time it will. Press enter, and let's do it to the nearest degree. All right, so we're going to get y equals 33. Okay, if you want to write a note to yourself right here, maybe write down press second, then 10. And these mean the boxes. That way you know how to put it in the calculator a little later. All right, same thing with this one. I want to get c by itself, so I need to get rid of Sine. To get rid of sine, I do the opposite of sine. The opposite of sine is the inverse of sine. Okay, so it's going to be C equals the inverse of 0.7193. Okay, then all you do is put it in the calculator. So C equals the inverse. So the inverse is up here, so it's a blue letter, so I have to go second, then blue. And again, make sure it's reading exactly what you're writing. And then 0.7193. Close the parentheses, press enter. So C equals, to the nearest degree, 46 degree. And again, this will work for these both questions. So if it just has it straightforward, you just press it in. If it has tan y, you first have to get y by itself by taking the opposite. Okay, great. Now that you know how to use a calculator, let's see how this actually falls in with our problems. Now remember, these are really simple problems. It will get a little bit complicated as we go. All right, first thing I always do. First of all, it says in your notes, you always draw a triangle. Number one is always draw a triangle. Well, the triangle's already drawn for me. Number two is label your triangle. So let's go ahead and label all 4 triangles. The easiest one to remember, the one that you know without even thinking about it, is the one that's opposite the 90 degrees is always going to be opposite the 90 degrees or across from 90 degrees is always going to be H. So I can go ahead and label H on all of them. Okay. Once I've labeled H, now what I do is the second easiest one for me is to label O. O is always directly opposite the angle given. Okay, so in this question, you can see there's nothing there. So this is the angle that you're given or that you're looking for, and you go directly opposite that. So this is going to be O. In this question, there's nothing there, so it's this one. You go directly opposite, that's O. In this question, here's the angle. There's nothing here, so you're going to go directly opposite, and that's O. In this question, here's the angle. There's nothing here, so you're going to go directly opposite. That's O. And then finally, whatever is left over is A. So if it doesn't have something labeled, it's automatically A. So this one has H, this one has O, so this has to be A. This one has H, this one has O, so this has to be A. This one has nothing, so that's the one that's A. This one has nothing, that's the one that's A. All right, so step 3 was label your triangle. Once you've labeled your triangle, you need to set up your ratio. Okay, now I've told you before, and I'll tell you again, what I need you to do is circle what you need. Okay, so I need you to circle what you need. You know what you need by what's given. So in terms of sides, what's given? H, A, and O. Which ones you need? 2 to do a problem. Which one is given? Well, there's nothing on A, so it's got to be H and O, because the sides are there. On this one, what's given? Again, it's H and O. On this one, what's given? Again, it's H and O. My goodness, am I getting all of them H and O? On this one, what's given? Oh, O is not given. It's H and A. Okay. All right. So once your circles, you've put your circles against what's given, you set up your equation. So because I need O and H, I'm going to use, because it's O and H, I'm going to use S, which means sine. So I know this is saying sine of the angle. What's the angle? Well, the angle, they don't have anything labeled but question mark, so we're going to say question mark. Sine of the angle equals, and what's the ratio? It has to be in order, so it has to go opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite is 51 over hypotenuse, which is 55. Okay, do the same thing for number 2. All right, so O and H again, so we're still using sine. So we're going to go sine of the angle, which is question mark, equals opposite, which is 34, over hypotenuse, which is 55. Okay, set up your next one. Again, it's still O and H, so you're still using O and H, so you're still using sine. I'm going to write it right here. Sine of the angle, what's the angle? It's not question mark this time, it's what? 16. So sine of the angle, sine of 16 equals opposite, which is x, over hypotenuse, which is 18. Okay. Set up the next one. You need A and H this time, so you need Ka, A and H. So Ka, cosine of the angle, what's the angle? 63 equals A, adjacent, over hypotenuse. Adjacent, 23 over hypotenuse, X. Now you've set up your ratio. So now you've drawn your triangle, you've labeled your triangle, you've circled or underlined what you need, you've set up your ratio. Now you actually have to solve it. Now to solve it is relatively simple. All you're going to do is cross multiply. All right, so, well, actually in this one you don't need to cross multiply. In this one you need to get rid of sign, right? Because you want to find out what this is, what question mark is. So you need to get rid of sign. What is the opposite of sign? The opposite of sign, again, you don't even have to remember it. You just go to your calculator, look right above it, that's opposite of sign, is the inverse of sign. So this is really saying question mark equals the inverse of sign of 51 over 55. So question mark equals, so you simply go the inverse, which is going to be second because I want to get the blue, of 51 divided by 55. Don't forget to close it. Equals. All right, so let's do it to the nearest degrees, 60 degrees. So what we're saying is that question mark here is really 60 degrees. Okay, let's do the next one. Okay, looks the only thing that I need to do here, again, is get question mark on its own, which means I have to get rid of sign. To get rid of sign, again, you take the inverse. So the inverse of 34 over 55. And then you simply punch it in the calculator, the inverse of sine 34 divided by 55. Close it. To the nearest degree is going to be 38. So question mark equals 38 degrees. So question mark equals 38 degrees. Okay, nice and easy. All right, on these ones, okay, if it's not already set up for where you could just type it in or just do the inverse, you first have to make it like that. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. We're going to cross multiply these. So you're going to put a 1 underneath each one. Now, this is very, 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 very super important. When you cross multiply, so that you don't make mistakes further on, this is what I want you to do. When you cross multiply, I want you to put this number all the way at the front here. So when you cross multiply, put this number all the way at, like on each end. So you're going to put 18 all the way at the end. Don't put it by the 16 because then you'll get confusing. So put it all the way on the end. All right, so now it's going to look like 18 sine 16 equals x times 1, which is x. Okay, on this one, same thing. Put it all the way at the end. Put that all the way at the end. You're going to get x cosine 63 equals 23, because 1 times 23 is 23. All right, then on this one I have x by itself, so I can just punch it in the calculator. On this one I don't. So how would I get x by itself? Well, think about it. What's the operation that's between x and cosine? Okay, is it addition, multiplication, subtraction, or division? It's multiplication. So to get rid of multiplication, all I have to do is divide both sides by cosine of 63. Okay, this crosses out, so now I have x equals 23 over cosine of 63. Once I get x by itself, it's all about punching in the calculator. So I'm going to do the left one first. So 18, and you punch it in just like that. 18, and what's the operation? Times. And I actually think, let's see if it'll work without even punching. Let's do 18 sine 16, see if that will work. Close. Okay, do 18 times sine 16 and close. See how it's the same? So you actually don't even have to, you don't actually even have to put the multiplication. You could just type it in. The big thing is make sure that this is always on the front. So every time you cross multiply, make sure you put it on the ends. Okay, that way you're not going to get it wrong. All right, so x equals 4.96. Let's do it to the nearest tenth. So that's going to make that 0 and make that 5. All right, same thing right here. All right, cosine is 23 over So cosine, no, so 23, x is 23 over, and to get the over button, you press division. Okay, so see this over, see how it was over cosine 63. Make sure you close the parentheses. So 23 over cosine 63, 23 over cosine 63. Enter. To the nearest tenth, 50.7. So x on this one is 50.7. Okay, so I know that there's a lot. Don't worry, we're going to practice. Okay, we're going to keep practicing. 2 new things we learned today is how to put it in the calculator and then how to solve it by cross multiplying. All right, or once we cross multiply, we can now put it into the calculator. On the next time I see you, we are just simply going to practice this. Watch this video one more time just to make sure that you understand it, and then we'll just go from there.